Hi, welcome to Beef Cattle Institute's Ask the Experts, where our experts will answer your questions. Happy to have you with us, and always happy to have some of your questions. If you have a question you'd like us to answer, you can send it to bci@ksu.edu. I've got two great experts with me today, Dr. Brian Lubers
Morning.
and Dr. Bob Larson.
Hello, guys.
And we're going to jump right in because we've got a great listener question. And as you guys remember, your answers can get up to 10 points. So I'm going to start with the question. And they wanted to know, I want to get some new information, make some changes to my operation. Where's the best place to get that information? Should I watch and learn from other producers, or should I use university resources, or are there other places? Brian?
I'm going to say the internet. No, I'm totally joking. No, because I think you can actually get good information from your colleagues. And I know we all have the jokes about, the coffee shop talk or whatever, but I really do think there is some valuable information there. I don't think you have to repeat all the mistakes on your own. But I think that the word of caution I have, and we say this all the time on Cattle Chat, is it depends, right? And so their operation is going to be different than yours. And if you don't account for those differences, I think you really run the risk of making some huge mistakes because you didn't account. So what worked for them may not work for you at all. So I'm actually going to say I think there's some great information out there from your fellow producers.
From colleagues or peers finding out. So
Yep.
six points for Brian out of the gate. Bob?
Well, I think I agree that there's some real value in some experience, particularly, and I'm going to focus on local, in that the cattle business is so impacted by climate and environment. So an area of the country that gets more rain than you, or less rain, or farther north or farther south, those can really impact. And that's going to be honestly true for both experience. So if you go to a cattleman's meeting, or you get on the internet and you see a cattleman from a different part of the country that talks about something that really worked for them, or you look at research from a different part of the country, I think you have to filter it through what's locally available. So, but that, and I'm giving you a really wishy-washy. But then the other thing that really stretches my mind sometimes is to be challenged by somebody that does things totally differently. So, talking to cattlemen or research from Florida, or from, the Northwest part of the United States, or from South Africa, and then asking yourself, would it work here? And so I'm going to answer, just to be different than Brian, I'm going to say use university research, but I would get to know the people in your area, your extension people, your state extension specialists, and start there with some of these questions that you might have.
I'm going to give you 5 points because you said think local, but then look at research from all over the country. So you kind of answered both. So
Well,
you would think you'd get more points, but you answered both. Now let's talk university research. So Brian, pros and cons of university research, and Bob, I'll come back to you.
So easy pro for university research is it's generally pretty unbiased, right? And so when we talk about research in general, there's sponsored research, and that when we say sponsored research, we generally mean it's a company, it's a genetics company, it's a pharmaceutical company, and they do very high quality research. Don't get me wrong, but there's a thing called publication bias, where sometimes if it doesn't work out, we never see the results of that. University research, unbiased. No matter what the outcome was, you're probably going to see it in a publication somewhere. I think the biggest con for university research is I would say for just the everyday run-of-the-mill producer, it's difficult to interpret. I think we deal with a range of questions from very basic science to applied science, and sometimes we just don't get to the how would that impact an individual producer's operation.
Okay. And Brian's got 8 points. Bob, university research, pro and con?
I think one of the pros, as Brian said, is it's unbiased. And again, I love the United States land grant system. I think that is one of the greatest decisions that was made, as far as how do you try to make some of those research questions as applicable as possible. And I'm going to say that's one of the reasons I really do like. I spent some time in extension, and I think there's some real value in kind of combining that local knowledge, the producer level knowledge, with some controlled randomized studies, which is kind of the heartbeat of the university. And so I don't know how to answer this question other than use the university research through the extension system, but it's always filtered through the local extension agent, the other producers in the area. It's always filtered through that. So I don't think this has to be an either or. I think it's how do you use university research filtered through your local situation and to come up with the best answers.
Excellent answer, Bob, but a little bit over time. So I'm going to have to
What's
knock
new?
you a point for that. Brian ends up with 8. You end up with 7. Thanks for joining us. If you have other questions, you can send us an email at bci@ksu.edu.